Thank you for joining us again on Open Line. We are talking about voting restoration rights for those who are post-incarceration, and I am joined with our guests, Advocate Stephanie Harris and Advocates Keeda Haynes. And, this is an important discussion. We had a few phone calls. We encourage everyone, to continue to call us with your questions and comments. And, I think this is also an educational moment for myself, because I think a lot of people just don't realize that there are people who truly want to vote, like we said. And, one of the comments from Mike was, I can't get people to vote, but these are people who want to vote. And what is some of the things that you guys face and the challenges when there are people who feel like, I did my time, I don't want to deal with this? How do you encourage them? Like, this is your right. Like, you can get this back. I know it's a lot of steps and some hurdles, but this is a part of your freedom and your rights as an American.
It just sort of depends on the context of the conversation, but there are a lot of things. And I started with, I mentioned driver's license reinstatement. The reasons they don't have their driver's license go back to the fact that the legislation that was in place when they were 16. They couldn't go get their driver's license because they weren't performing well enough in school to get the clearance from the school to get the license. We've got the school to prison pipeline, that probably assisted them to get to the point where they were indeed directly impacted. And so those are the type of things I'm like, you are here where you are because of the legislation that was in place or that is in place. And unless you make that change, and if you look around, a lot of times I'm in a situation where there's a gymnasium full of people that are affected by this, you all are a voting block. And if you go from this room to the next room to the next room, this is a huge voting block. So you as a group could make a huge impact on the laws that got you here in the first place if you are able to reinstate your right to vote and encourage those that are able to vote to do so.
And why should, say, the person who's like, well, I didn't go to prison, why should I care about this? How do we make those who may not feel like they have no say in this or involvement to get involved? Because I feel like it impacts all of us regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, your race. We want people to vote. We want people to have their rights.
I think, it should be startling to anyone when you say that 10% of our population can't vote, right? And, we talk about democracy, and democracy works best when everyone is included. Like, not when we have certain populations of people who cannot participate in that democracy because of their involvement with the criminal legal system. They should still be able to participate in our democratic process. And that is how democracy works, when everyone is participating. And so that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is just, that this is a democracy issue, right? Because so many times this issue is linked to reentry. And that's fine, because two things can be true at once, but this is also a democracy issue. And so when we are talking about democracy, and when we're talking about voter suppression, and when we're talking about, gerrymandering and, redistricting, all that kind of stuff, we cannot have a full conversation about democracy without also including felony disenfranchisement in that conversation. And so it's just like, if we want to have a full, complete conversation, felony disenfranchisement needs to be included in that. And the same way that people are caring about, back when they redrew the different maps here in Tennessee and then in Davidson County and other counties and stuff, is the same way that people should care about the fact that we have 10% of our population that cannot vote because of a felony conviction on their record.
I would like to add to that, and that is that, and I don't want it to be a fear-based reason, but it can be a fear-based reason, and that is white flight going out to the suburbs because you feel like it's a safe space to be. These youngsters whose parents may be incarcerated are affected. And if they don't have any opportunities, and people that come out for reentry have very limited opportunities for success and for economic success. And then you run into these, okay, well, now they're mobs running into the mall. These are folks that see that as no better opportunity. And so if they felt like they were more involved in a democratic process, then I believe that very strongly that some of these things that are occurring in our world on a regular basis that we see on the news would not happen if this particular population had more opportunities and were not as disenfranchised as they are.
We have a caller on line 4. Melissa, you are live on OpenLine. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Do you have a question for us?
No, I don't have a question, but I'm a convicted felon, and I was sentenced in the state of Alabama. And it took me about 6 months to get my voting rights back. It was hurdles. It was very difficult. But the county that I live in Tennessee, when I went to the voters bureau, the two ladies that worked in that county were very helpful. So you can get it back. I also worked for the census after I was a convicted felon. Okay, that's the Department of Commerce. Okay, and when I was doing the census, there were several felons that I spoke to, and I encouraged them to go to the process and get their voting rights back. Felons believe that they have no rights. I am a living memorial that you can get your voting rights back. I am an active voter in the state of Tennessee. Okay? Now, I was called for jury duty. I answered the questions correctly, and I was rejected spontaneously. I'm okay with that because as a convicted felon, I probably would not be unbiased because of the felony, what's the word? You know, it's the association, okay? I had a life as a licensed professional before I was a convicted felon, making $28 an hour, $35 an hour, PRN. When I got out of prison, I had to recreate myself. Now I make $17.50 an hour. The Board of Health will not reinstate my license. They reinstated my license. I am a licensed, professional. I can't get anybody to hire me because I am a convicted felon. So I know I'm getting off track, and y'all are discussing about voting rights. As a felon, you can get them back. You have to jump through the loops, and you have to let the felons out there know that they are able to get their voting rights back so that they can have a voice.
All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. I think you made several great points there, and I think one is that, like she said, she is living proof that it works. It can happen. It is a lot of steps, for that she had to go through. Do you guys see in your profession that there are those moments where I'm like, it worked, it paid off, we got it to work? I know it's probably feel like the line is still longer, but there are some success stories.
Yes, we have quite a few success stories, but first I want to speak directly to the viewers and for those that are calling in. I would ask that when you call in and you're talking about people with felony convictions on their record, that you not call in and that you not use the word felon and that you not use ex-convict. Language matters. And people that have convictions on their record, they're people just like everybody else. They're folks that are directly impacted, people that are impacted by the criminal legal system. And so we want to make sure first that we're humanizing people. And that's a big part of this that we're talking about, because so many times there's this otherism that goes on, right? And if we continue to use language that's dehumanizing, then we continue to allow people to treat directly impacted people as if they are second-class citizens, right? And so, we're fighting against that with, trying to get voting rights back for folks with the reentry work that Stephanie is doing, and so it's important that as we are doing this and as we're having these conversations, that we make sure that we're incorporating language that's humanizing the very people that we are trying to encourage to be involved in the process. And so that's the first thing that I wanted to say. Secondly, our executive director, Dawn Harrington, she had an out-of-state conviction, and her conviction was in New York. New York, you automatically get your voting rights back. And so she had so many hurdles, and with the help of Campaign Legal Center, she was finally able to get her voting rights back. We have some other women on staff at Free Hearts, because Free Hearts is an organization that is run by directly impacted women, and so we've even helped some of our actual staff members to get their voting rights back. They had, quite a bit of, court costs that they had to pay, restitution, and so, like I said, with our fees and fines fund, we were able to do that, and some of our staff were able to vote for the first time. Another lady, she had restitution, and we paid off her restitution, and it was the first time that she had voted in like 25 years.
Wow.
So yes, there definitely are success stories, and when you hear these success stories, it is what, you know, gives you, you know, the energy and everything that you need to continue on, right? Because, you know, for one success story, there's, you know, 50 other folks over here that you're trying to move through the process with all of these different hurdles. But, you know, we do celebrate the wins when we can get them, you know, even though sometimes they are few and far in between, but we do make sure that we do celebrate the wins. And, you know, and I'm glad that Melissa was able to get her voting rights back. I know she said it took 6 months, and I'm glad that in her county she had people there at the clerk's office that was able to help her. That was really nice, you know, to her, and helped her go through the process, because that's not everybody's experience.
Right.
And so I am glad that even though it took 6 months, that she was able to do that, and that she has continued to be involved in the democratic process here in Tennessee.
We have a call, Joe on line 5. Joe, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, you are
Hello?
live. Yes, you are live on OpenLine. You have a question or a comment for us?
Yes, ma'am. I'm 57. I'm soon to be 58 years old. I moved to Tennessee almost 10 years ago. I married my wife here, and anyway, that's a whole nother story. Yes, I have some, we'll call them black marks on my record, as far as I was a juvenile. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and please don't hold that against me. But I got in some trouble as a juvenile, and it lapsed over into my adulthood as far as being 18 years old. Something had happened. I was in a juvenile institution in Pennsylvania, escaped, blah, blah, blah. It's a felony. The thing is, I apologize. I know I was asked not to. I'm sorry. It's still being held against me. I'm not permitted to do, obviously, I'm not permitted to vote. And I'm in Tennessee now. And these happened in Pennsylvania. But I'm not permitted to vote. I would not be allowed to own a firearm as a rifle to go hunting with, you know, friends and family. So it's frustrating, and I'm trying to find out. From what I know, it costs a lot of money to try to rectify this.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is there a better way to try to rectify this, or is it a lost cause?
So, Joe, let me ask you this. So your conviction as an adult is in Pennsylvania?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Escape and attempted burglary.
Okay, I'm going to give you my email address, and I want you to email me, and we will see what we can do about helping you get your voting rights reinstated, okay?
And it's not just the voting rights, ma'am. It was what I was about going hunting. I'm not allowed to possess, own, handle, or even touch a firearm.
Yes. Now, the firearm situation, that's a little different here in the state of Tennessee. And, you know, we focus on rights restoration work. So if you want to get your voting rights back, like I said, you can email me, and we will definitely try to do that. As far as, you know, the gun stuff, that is outside of what we do in my position at Free Hearts.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So my email address is my first name, K-E-E, D as in dog, A, at free, F-R-E-E, hearts, H-E-A-R-T-S, org.com. So it is Keeda at freeheartsorg.com. Just shoot me an email and tell me that you called in to the show, and I gave you my email address, and you want to talk about getting your voting rights back.
Yes, ma'am. I would be more than happy to.
All right, Joe. I'll talk to you soon then.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thanks for calling, Joe.
You too.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break after that call. We appreciate Joe for calling and appreciate having resources available for people like Joe. Please continue to call in with your questions, and we will have more, of course, after the break.